I think it is of no surprise to anybody. Many people have realized this at this point, that everybody is getting fired, nobody's getting hired, and people are getting replaced with AI and robotics.
I got laid off today. After 10 years.
I told you guys I was let go today after 20 years.
Today, I was laid off at Amazon.
I keep getting job offers that are extremely lowered wages due to them knowing people are desperate.
I got laid off in May. It is now the end of October. Look at all these open tabs. The job hunt right now, you guys. If you got a job, just keep it.
Amazon recently announced their largest corporate layoff, cutting 14,000 employees, with executives hoping to eliminate 600,000 workers by 2033.
More than that.
When Amazon, the U.S.'s second largest employer, starts laying off employees, it gives cover to other CEOs. UPS announced 48,000 layoffs.
48,000? You know what's going to be funny? Is that if they can, it'll be 480,000. Because soon the UPS will be completely automated with like machines that will take the different like little packages that you get and they will deliver them to your door themselves.
YouTube is offering its employees voluntary exit packages.
Yep.
Chegg announced it was cutting 45% of its workforce. Target cut roughly
Well, I mean, Chegg, obviously, because that was a book reselling place and people don't use books anymore. Nobody knows how to read.
1,800 employees.
It's all digital.
GM cut roughly 1,700 employees.
Of course,
The list
absolutely.
goes on. And this is just for the month of October. It doesn't even cover the layoffs we've been experiencing throughout the year. But there's one
Sure.
layoff I want to highlight. Paramount. If you watched my previous video, I mentioned how David Ellison, son of tech billionaire Larry Ellison, had purchased Paramount, further
Good for
growing
him.
his media empire. Despite this open letter David sent to Paramount employees after taking over the company, claiming, "You are the heart of this company," Paramount cut 1,000 employees, with that number expected to be 2,000 in coming weeks.
If companies like Google and Amazon and Meta are making billions, why are they laying people off?
Oh, that's easy.
Because they're not contributing to the product and they're not valuable. It's pretty simple.
These billionaires don't care about us. They only care about showing growth to Wall Street every 3 months.
Yeah, why would they why would they keep somebody on the payroll that they can fire? Of course.
Remember when property developer Tim Gurner said that unemployment needed to rise 40-50% to put us workers back in our place?
We need to see unemployment rise. Unemployment has to jump 40-50% in my view. We need to remind people that they work for the employer.
Yes.
Employees feel the employer is extremely lucky to have them. We've got to kill that attitude.
Here's what happened. Elon Musk took over Twitter, fired 80% of the staff, and nothing changed to the product. In fact, I think the product got better. Every single other business owner in the world saw that.
What isn't discussed enough is the shadow layoff system. More companies are hiring
Shadow
part-time
layoffs.
and contract workers as a means to cut costs. This means for
Yeah,
the
of course.
workers, no retirement plans, no healthcare
right.
benefits, and no severance package. The WARN Act doesn't require corporations in every state to report part-time or contract workers as part of their layoffs. This is why the layoff numbers might seem low, but if we account for all employment type, we've actually seen 13.8 million layoffs from January to August of this year. Amazon claims that they're laying off employees in an effort to operate like the world's largest startup. They claim they need to increase their efficiency. Yet in 2024, they generated $638 billion. Amazon has been building an army of robots.
That's
A
right.
leaked internal document shows executives
That's
hoping
right.
they can eliminate 600,000 roles by using robots. Back in June, Amazon CEO Andy Jassy addressed all the employees about AI and automation. "We have strong conviction that AI agents will change how we work. There will be billions of these agents. We will need fewer people doing some of the jobs that are being done today."
Probably in
What are we doing?
2025, we at Meta, as well as the other companies that are basically working on this, are going to have an AI that can effectively be a sort of mid-level engineer that you have at your company. Over time, we'll get to the point where a lot of the code in our apps, and including the AI that we generate, is actually going to be built by AI engineers instead of people engineers.
They're laying off real human workers today, despite recognizing that AI cannot do a mid-level engineer's job.
Well, that's why they're not laying off the mid-level engineers, but they are laying off the entry-level engineers. At this current point in time, it is undeniable that AI can do some people's jobs.
They're redirecting the money they used to pay real human workers into AI investments. For these executives, layoffs are a means to cut costs. And who costs the most? Senior employees. A perfect example of this that we saw earlier this year was when Microsoft let go of Ron Buckton. Ron spent 18 years at Microsoft. 10 of those years was spent working on TypeScript. TypeScript is used by over 5 million developers. I use TypeScript. The majority of the websites that you interact with use TypeScript. And despite Microsoft having over $245 billion in revenue for 2024, they still let Ron go. Was Ron suddenly discovered to be a slacker after 18 years of promotions? Or is it that executives looked at a spreadsheet, saw his senior level salary, and decided that number was too big? And at the same time they're laying off senior workers, they're also eliminating junior positions. Between January and October of 2024, the unemployment rate for recent college graduates was 15.3% in their first year after graduation. Wow. And it's not looking any better in other countries.
I saw a rather shocking statistic in the UK earlier this week that was talking about the fact that last year there were 1.2 million graduates for 17,000 jobs. And on top of that, with AI, many of those graduate jobs are changing or are more difficult for people to get into.
More seniors and retirees are returning to the workforce because they can't afford the cost of living on their retirement funds or their Social Security.
Yeah, there's a lot of old boomers. Like, everybody jokes about how boomers, grew up in the greatest economy ever. But some people, even whenever they have an aimbot, they end up losing a match. So there are boomers that don't have a lot of money saved up. And because of that, they end up being broke and then they have to go back to work.
According to the Department of Health and Human Services, people aged 50 and older are the fastest growing group of those experiencing homelessness, with that number expected to double by 2030.
She said triple, not double.
This is my tent.
Yeah.
There's my kitchen.
She living out there in the woods.
Because despite paying into Social Security with every paycheck, that money isn't being saved for you. It's being used to pay for current retirees, and it's also not keeping up with the cost of living. No. Average monthly payment for retirees is $2,002. But regardless, the U.S. government is considering increasing the retirement age to 69, by many workers claiming that employers are deeming them too experienced. A nice way for these companies to say that they don't want to hire you after 40.
And so I made a post about over a month ago talking about how I was laid off at 50, being at the peak of my career, and thousands of you are going through the same thing. I even had someone make a comment saying that they went to Trader Joe's to try to get a job and they were denied because they are overqualified.
It's 2025 and the new reality is that people in their mid-50s, late 50s are the new unemployables. It's almost impossible to land another job at your current level. You can almost kiss it goodbye.
If that's the case, how exactly are we supposed to work until we're 70 if these companies stop hiring people around the age of 40? And we've seen at least 180,000 government employees let go. And now we see senior FANG employees re-entering the job market after layoffs.
A recruiter I just got off the phone with told me that I'm going up against someone who has 2 years of postgraduate full-time work experience.
The same thing happened whenever we were like all 21 to like 24. Because like back then, that's whenever the recession happened after 2008. And it was almost impossible to get a job back then. Like, you were competing against people that had 5 or 10 years of experience. And it was like, okay, well, how am I ever going to get a job when every job has like 4 applicants and you need to have experience to get experience, but you don't have any experience, so you can't get any experience. And what happens is that now they have their student loan debt that's compounding and building on top of itself.
So let me get this straight. We have retirees, new graduates, blue collar and white collar, government employees, senior FANG employees, all fighting over a dwindling number of jobs. And at the same time that everyone's trying to find a job, inflation is out of control. The cost of living the past 5 years just keeps increasing.
Yes. Let's see if anybody else is experiencing this. So last year, my homeowner's insurance for the year was $3,018. Year before that, it was $2,600. Year before that, $2,200. Year before that,
so it went up
at $2,100. I've owned this house for.
So it went up by 50% in 3 years.
4 years. This year, my homeowner's insurance is over $6,000. No claims. In the last 4 years, I've never had a claim against the house I'm living in now. But my insurance just doubled. homeowners insurance doubled year over year with no claims.
Yet wages aren't keeping up with the cost of living. Right. Meanwhile, our representatives are telling us that inflation is only 3%, yet they're not explaining the bigger picture. Inflation may be 3% this year, but what was it last year and the year before? They're not adding on all the prior years, because the reality is inflation rarely decreases. And in fact, it benefits the governments to have inflation. And about that inflation, a lot of it is artificially created. Tyson and other corporations conspired to create an artificial pork shortage so that they could increase the prices of pork from 2009 to 2018. When they were caught, they paid just $85 million. That's nothing compared to the $20 billion pork industry. The CEO has bragged about passing on inflation to consumers.
Like many other companies, we were faced with a range of levels of inflation. Our teams have worked together with our customers to pass along that inflation through price increases.
We will remain disciplined and agile in our pricing initiatives to ensure that any additional inflationary pressures are passed along to customers.
We'd like to think that we have relationships with customers that allow us to be able to take to them inflation that we see in the marketplace and be able to pass that on ultimately to the consumer.
They just said, if we're going to eat shit, you're going to eat shit.
Companies are already using dynamic wage setting, using algorithms and AI to decide what we should be paid. It's algorithm exploitation. Uber pioneered this. Their AI was able to identify which drivers would accept a $3 ride because they're behind on their bills. DoorDash
Gotta squeeze them. Gotta get all that money out of them.
Also uses it. CareRev uses it for healthcare workers.
I have been struggling to pay all my bills on time. When I first moved into this apartment 5 years ago, that wasn't an issue at all. I feel ashamed sometimes as a man or as a person that I can't come up with the bills. It's frustrating. I Uber every day. It's Wednesday. I drove around from 7 till 11 and made $20.
Amazon laid off 14,000 workers, yet they're still hiring for engineering, sales, and management.
Well, I don't think that they're actually hiring. There's like requirements that businesses have that they have to put a listing for a job publicly, even if they're going to hire internally. And I think that's the reason why you're probably seeing a lot of these different jobs being placed. But in a lot of the cases, these jobs aren't real. Like, you're never going to get hired for this business development senior manager job. It doesn't exist.
Intel laid off roughly 22,000 this year, yet they're still hiring.
Because they have to put those listings, but they're not actually hiring.
Corporations lay off people only to hire new employees at a lower salary with less equity and a worse benefits package. If they're already trying to replace us with AI, is it really that big of a stretch to think that they wouldn't lower our salaries by roughly 30% because their AI determined that
they are lowering your salary. They lower your salary every year that they don't give you a wage that accounts for the cost of living. That's the problem. So even a very high wage, like $20, is actually not sufficient to live in a number of urban areas in the United States now.
In this economy, they increasingly give us worse salaries, while Andy Jassy, CEO of Amazon, made $40 million in 2024. His compensation is directly tied to Amazon's stock price. The day Amazon announced 14,000 layoffs, Amazon stock jumped 13%. The day UPS announced 48,000 layoffs, their stock price jumped almost 13% as well. They want us to believe that this is about the future and innovation.
Well, it is for them, their future, their innovation, not yours.
They're laying off real human workers today, investing that money into their dream of AI replacing all of us in the future.
I think that if things keep going the way that they do, we are going to have a eugenic effect of the lowest IQ people literally die because they can't take care of themselves. I think that's what's going to happen.